Thunder split the sky, as if the heavens themselves recoiled from what was about to happen. Alara Winter stood in the center of Elarinder's marketplace, rain plastering her pale hair to her cheeks, while her mother's trembling hand signed the parchment that sold her. Around them, villagers gathered like vultures drawn to sorrow. They muttered, spat, laughed, a symphony of cruelty echoing between the cobblestones. "She's barren," someone hissed. "A woman who can't bear life has no place among wolves." Alara did not cry. Her throat ached, but she kept her head high, though the iron collar around her neck made her feel less human, more commodity. The auctioneer, fat and jeweled, raised his voice above the rain. "One silver crest for the healer's useless daughter. Strong arms, gentle manner, but empty womb." The crowd jeered, and the words carved into her like knives. Her father wouldn't look at her. Her mother sobbed into his shoulder. They had debts. Alara knew that, but she hadn't believed they'd sell their only child. When the gavel struck wood, it sounded like the closing of a tomb. "Sold," the auctioneer shouted. "To the king himself." The laughter died instantly. A shadow detached itself from the rain. He came forward without haste, tall, cloaked in black, the hood hiding most of his face. Yet the weight of his presence silenced even the boldest heckler. The scent of storm and iron surrounded him, cold and wild, as if he carried the night itself on his skin. "Release her," the man said. His voice was low, measured, but something inside it made every living creature still. The guards hesitated, until he drew back his hood. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The Alpha King of Elarinder. Kaelin Draven's eyes were silver, unnatural, feral, glowing faintly even in the rain. He was young for a monarch, yet legends of his ruthlessness had outlived many who dared whisper them. He ruled from the mountains unseen by most, feared by all. The people bowed, without thinking. "Your Majesty," the auctioneer stammered, "it's only a poor girl." "Exactly," Kaelin cut in. "That is why she belongs to me." He handed over a single gold crest. "One coin for life." Then he turned to Alara. "Come." For the first time in hours, she spoke. "Why?" Her voice was barely a thread of sound, but it held defiance. The corner of his mouth twitched, not a smile, not quite. "Because I said so." He walked away, and the guards shoved her to follow. She stumbled through mud and whispers, her heart a storm of terror and disbelief. She had expected a merchant, perhaps a cruel husband. Not a king. Not him. They rode through the night, silence stretching like an unspoken vow. His horse's hooves thundered against the stones, while she sat before him, rigid, feeling the cold seep through her bones. Every time she moved, she caught the faint rumble of his breathing behind her, steady, predatory, alive. When dawn bled across the sky, the palace rose before them, carved into a mountainside, its towers like silver spears piercing clouds. The air shimmered faintly with enchantment. Wolves paced the walls, eyes gleaming like molten amber. Inside, the corridors were silent as cathedrals. Servants bowed but did not speak. The king led her through candlelit halls until they reached a chamber filled with the scent of herbs and clean linen. "This will be your quarters," he said, his tone stripped of warmth. "You'll serve as my healer. Do not stray beyond the eastern wing. Do not ask questions." He turned to leave, but she found her courage again. "Why choose me? There are 100 healers stronger, wiser, whole." He paused in the doorway. For a heartbeat, his voice softened. "Because you're the only one untouched by ambition. And because no one else would dare take you." When he was gone, she collapsed onto the bed, shaking. Every instinct screamed danger. Yet beneath it, something else stirred. Curiosity. That strange pulse she'd felt in the market returned, a pulse that answered his like an echo. Days passed in uneasy rhythm. She saw him rarely, yet felt him everywhere. The echo of his footsteps, the scent of smoke and rain clinging to the corridors. The servants watched her with pity. "He doesn't keep them long," whispered one. "The palace swallows them whole." At night, She heard the howls, low, mournful, rising from somewhere deep below. The sound made her blood shiver. Once, when she was gathering herbs in the garden, he appeared without sound. "You're fearless," he said, eyes glinting in the dying light. "I'm only trying to live," she replied. "Most people tremble when I speak." "I'm not most people." For a moment, he simply looked at her, something unreadable crossing his face. Then he stepped closer, the space between them narrowing until she could feel the heat of him. "No," he murmured. "You're not." Her pulse betrayed her calm. She turned away, breathless, but his voice followed, soft as a threat. "Be careful, healer. The palace listens. And it remembers." That night, she couldn't sleep. She thought of his eyes, the sorrow buried in them. A king haunted by something unseen. When thunder rolled again outside, she rose to close the window and froze. Down in the courtyard stood Kalen, bareheaded in the rain, staring up at the moon. His cloak billowed like wings, and for an instant, she thought she saw light ripple under his skin, silver veins glowing, moving alive. He tilted his head, nostrils flaring, as though he sensed her gaze. Their eyes met through the storm. The world held its breath. Then, without a word, he turned and vanished into shadow. The next morning, the servants spoke in hushed tones. "He hasn't slept again," one said. "Every new moon it worsens." Alara said nothing, but the unease inside her deepened. She found strange scratches along her door, claw marks burned into wood. In her dreams, she saw silver eyes in the dark and a voice whispering her name. When she tried to ask the steward about it, he only paled. "Do not speak of such things, my lady. The king forbids it." "My lady." The word startled her. She wasn't a lady, she was property. Yet even the servants had begun to treat her differently, as if her presence carried some invisible power. That evening, she brought medicine to the throne room. Kalen sat in silence before the great hearth, the fire's glow flickering across his scarred hands. "You've been dreaming," he said without turning. Her heart lurched. "How do you know?" "Because I hear you whisper my name." She froze. "I don't remember." He rose slowly, approaching until only a breath separated them. The storm scent returned, dark, consuming. "You should fear me, Alara Winter. All wise creatures do." "Then why don't you?" she whispered. Something broke in his expression, a flicker of pain, almost human. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "because you are the first to see me and not turn away." Her chest ached. The urge to touch him, to comfort, to understand, was unbearable. But before she could speak, the hall shuddered with a distant roar. Wolves howled in the mountains, the sound fierce, desperate. Kalen's eyes flared silver again, bright as lightning. "Go to your chambers," he ordered, voice roughened. "What's happening?" He hesitated, fighting something unseen inside him. "The night hunts for me," he said. "And soon, it will hunt for you too." Then he vanished into the dark, leaving her trembling in the glow of dying firelight, his warning echoing like a curse that had only just begun to unfold. The scream shattered the silence before dawn. It wasn't human. Alara jolted upright in bed, her heart clawing at her ribs. Somewhere in the palace depths, a door slammed, and then nothing. Only the sound of rain, soft and endless, whispering against stone. She rose, wrapping herself in her cloak, her bare feet silent on the cold floor as she stepped into the corridor. The torches burned low, their light unsteady, and every shadow seemed to breathe. She followed the echo of that scream down twisting halls until she reached the courtyard. The scent of blood lingered there, faint, metallic, wrong. Her stomach turned. At the fountain's edge lay a wolf, its golden fur streaked crimson, eyes glassy. A royal guard knelt beside it, shaking. When he saw her, he crossed his chest. "Back to your quarters, healer. The king, he forbids anyone from seeing this." She didn't move. "What happened?" "It's his curse," the man whispered hoarsely. "Every moon, something dies near him. We thought it was rumor, But now, he broke off as a low growl rumbled through the courtyard, deep and mournful, coming from the direction of the forest. Before she could speak again, the guard rose and fled, leaving her alone with the dying wolf and that sound, ancient, sorrowful, more than beast. It pulled her toward the gates as if her very soul recognized the voice. Against reason, she followed it into the mist. The forest loomed, soaked in silver moonlight, branches heavy with rain. The growl became words, half human, half animal, breaking on pain. "Leave me." And there he was. Kalen knelt among the roots, shirt torn, his body trembling with violent restraint. Steam rose from his skin, as if the world itself rejected him. His eyes, those burning silver eyes, found hers. "I told you not to come. What are you?" Her voice cracked. "Cursed," he said, breath hitching as claws tore through his hands. "The moon goddess marked my line. Every woman I claim dies. The wolves around me rot. The land bleeds. I am the monster they made." She took a step closer, though fear sang in every bone. "Then why save me?" He turned away, shaking. "Because I couldn't watch them destroy you. Not again." Before she could ask what he meant, he convulsed. The sound that left his throat was not human. It was the sound of bones breaking, of nature being remade. She stumbled back as his body bent and split, fur surging from skin, silver light consuming him. And then the alpha stood before her. Enormous, terrible, his fur luminous beneath the moon. For one heartbeat, she saw both man and wolf inside those eyes, anguish and longing tangled into one. He advanced, each step slow, controlled, as if fighting an invisible chain. The forest itself held its breath. She whispered, "Kalen." The wolf froze. His breathing thundered in the stillness. Then he bowed his head, pressing his muzzle into the earth. The gesture wasn't threat, it was surrender. Her throat ached. Slowly, she reached out, fingers trembling, until they brushed his fur. Warmth and power surged through her palm. Wild, ancient, alive. He shuddered beneath her touch. The glow around him flickered, and then, like mist, the beast was gone, and the man collapsed in his place, bare and bleeding. She caught him before he struck the ground. His skin burned like fever, his pulse unsteady. "Don't," he rasped. "My curse will spread." "Then let it," she said fiercely. "You've carried it alone too long." He laughed once, brokenly. "You don't understand, Alara. Every woman I've ever," he couldn't finish. She pressed a hand to his chest. His heart hammered beneath her palm, wild but steady. "I'm not afraid," she whispered. Something shifted in his gaze then, a crack in the wall he'd built around himself. "You should be." But his voice was softer now, almost a plea. She stayed until dawn. When he finally slept, his head in her lap, she looked at his scars and saw stories written there, years of solitude, of guilt carved into flesh. The first light of morning caught on his hair, turning it to silver. For the first time since she'd arrived, she didn't see a monster. She saw a man who'd forgotten what mercy felt like. When he woke, the world was quiet again. "No one must know," he said, standing weakly. "If they believe I've lost control, they'll destroy the palace, and you with it. Then I'll keep your secret." He stared at her for a long moment, something unreadable moving behind his eyes. "You shouldn't trust me so easily." "Maybe I don't," she said softly. "But something in me trusts the part of you that's still human." He turned away sharply, as if her words cut too deep. "That part is dying." She followed him back to the palace, silence wrapping them both. Servants scurried at the sight of his wounds, but he waved them off. "No word leaves these walls," he warned. They bowed low, trembling. That night, the court gathered for a feast to celebrate the harvest moon. Alara stood at the far edge of the hall, feeling eyes on her, noble women whispering behind jeweled fans, lords watching with thinly veiled contempt. Lady Seraphine Vale, the king's former betrothed, glided toward her, smile sharp as a blade. "So," Seraphine purred, "the little baron healer has found herself favored." The palace has a long memory, dear. It never ends well for his chosen. Alara met her gaze. Then let it remember me differently. Seraphine's smile didn't falter, but her eyes turned to ice. Be careful. The moon goddess has a cruel sense of humor. The music swelled. Torches flickered higher. Kaelin entered then, every head bowing as he took his throne. But his gaze found Alara instantly, and for a heartbeat, the noise of the hall vanished. She saw exhaustion in his face, and something like longing. As the feast wore on, she noticed his hand tremble around the goblet. Sweat gleamed on his temples. He rose suddenly, staggering slightly, and the nearest servants rushed forward. The king! Alara moved before anyone else. She caught his arm, felt the heat beneath his skin. You're burning. His breath came ragged. It's the moon. It calls the beast back. Then fight it. He gripped her wrist, his eyes flashing silver. I can't, not alone. And in that moment, everything slowed. The hall, the music, the breath between them. She felt something pass through her, a pulse of power, familiar and terrifying. Light flickered briefly beneath her skin. His eyes widened in shock. What are you? He whispered. I don't know, she breathed, trembling. But whatever this is, it's answering you. Before either could speak again, the great doors burst open. A guard stumbled in, blood on his armor. Your Majesty, betrayal. The council rises against you. The hall erupted in chaos. Kaelin turned to Alara, fury and fear warring across his face. Stay hidden, no matter what happens. But she shook her head, voice breaking. You saved me once. I won't let you face this alone. He hesitated, then cupped her face, rough thumb trembling against her cheek. Then you may damn us both, he said, and kissed her. Fierce, desperate, fleeting. The moment shattered as steel clashed in the corridor. He tore himself away and drew his blade, eyes blazing. Alara, he said, voice like thunder. Whatever happens tonight, remember this. I chose you. And then he was gone into the roar of battle, leaving her standing beneath the fading moonlight, her pulse still echoing with his promise, and the first scream of betrayal splitting the night.